you guys are actually making money on TikTok as well, beyond just the leads and everything you're getting for your business.
Roland's first video on TikTok just went nuts. It went viral. I mean, truly it did. His first one, it went crazy.
What does that look like to take them from like consuming content and getting hundreds of thousands of views to actually selling houses?
What's up, everybody? It is the REVB Podcast. Katie, how are you?
I am super.
Well, you're always super, and I'm super excited because we've got two of our friends on here that honestly are like some of my favorite people, which maybe I've said before, but this time I really mean it. Matt and Roland, I love them because they're taking so much action on like the things that we always talk about. They're out there doing it. They're out there failing forward all the time. They're making this content. They're inspiring a lot of people to do the same. And what for me they're really doing is they're really handling that objection in agents' mind of like, can I do this? Because they prove that it doesn't matter what your IQ is. You don't have to be good looking. You don't have to have a personality. Like, you too can succeed. And so Roland, Matt, welcome to the pod. You guys are just awesome. And I'm so happy to have you here.
What an intro. Wow. That is maybe the greatest build up to an intro for me I've ever heard, Roland. I don't know if that's the case for you, but that was absolutely blew me away. And Katie, that's the most chipper I've ever heard you ever. Is that your podcast voice? You know how everybody has voice. Like a phone voice? You're like, hey, everyone. I'm like, who is this? But sure. Okay. Hey, if that's what we're going to be on this podcast, I can play along with that.
Let's just dig in. We'll figure it out as we go, you know?
No, super appreciative to be here too. I cleared my whole schedule today for this because I'm super sick. This is the only thing I kept on my schedule.
Roland,
I'm dead serious.
Very much appreciate it. So Roland, give me kind of like the origin story. Like, how did you and Matt get started?
So we, Brooks and I used to run a company together called Envision Media, and Matt obviously is an agent in our market. So we became friends just through being real estate agents. I kind of backhanded, got to hanging out with Matt because I told him like about this super awesome company that he should start working with called Envision. He had no idea that I, was a part owner at that time. So I sold him on Envision. He started using Envision. Then we just started, relationship from there, and then started going on dates from there. And then,
here we are.
As a joke.
What's your version of that? That sounds like it's a very perspective story there. How did you take your guys' starting out?
No, that's pretty accurate. Roland subterfugely got me to use his media company. That the reason I didn't know he was part of it is because he didn't tell me he was part of it. So a little semantics there, but just want to make sure we have a little house cleaning for that part.
Did you ever go to their website to like see? Because like Roland was literally on their website.
No,
I think that was made after.
It was made after.
Early on.
This was very early on. Yeah, so he basically tricked me into using his media company, which I'm happy about. I love it, and I still use some of their guys today. But yeah, that's how it started. It started based off of a lie. Like, in those movies where like the girl starts dating the guy and then the girl finds out that the guy's actually like a prince, but didn't tell anybody the whole time. And for whatever reason, she gets mad about that, which has always baffled me. That's the situation. I was the princess. I was the princess in this situation.
You still are the princess, Matt.
I am. He hid his lineage to me until later on. And then when he said it, like, I didn't know how to feel. I needed time to think. I needed a whole montage of walking through the city. But after that, we've come to terms and we're on good ground now. Solid ground.
Did we call Roland a content prince? Is that what his title is?
I mean, I wouldn't mind. I mean, he deserves it, if nothing else. I think that is an earned moniker for Roland. Yeah.
Well, I feel so bad for anyone listening right now. They're like, all right, we're 4 minutes in.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
Listen, you got half the audience is dying. It's their favorite podcast. The other half already turned us off. So we only care about the half that's still here. So tell me about that first content you guys did together. Like, what did content starting out look like for you guys?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. So content started off is just Roland and I were both of the same mind of we want to do something creative in this business. We both kind of came from brokerages beforehand that were really, at least in my case, very stuffy, very traditional, very old school. And while all of that works, I'm not poo-pooing that at all. We just wanted something that could scratch that creative itch for us. And so once we kind of built our friendship up a little bit, we found we had the same sense of humor, the same sort of creative style and vibe. And we just started teaming up on silly videos, funny content for agents, for customers, whether it's edutainment or whether it was for recruiting purposes, kind of, we were all over the place on it. But that's how we really started, is we wanted to just to get out there, and it really helped because it helped keep us both accountable, because we kind of had like a creative partner to bounce off of. And it was really kind of what solidified our launching pad into what we've taken it into at this point.
Love that. So I know you guys have done podcasts. You guys have done some like funny videos. You've done listing videos. You've done local highlights that I thought were really great. When you look at your business today, what format of video, of, platform, like what is the thing that's driving the most amount of business from content?
For me, it's definitely the long form TikTok home tour walkthroughs, like without a doubt. I'm gonna have my best year for sure. And it's, for me specifically, is 100% from TikTok.
Well,
That's so wild.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we think TikTok, we think 20 seconds, we think short, we think teenagers. So tell me more about this long form TikTok.
Yeah, so same thing we said on the Tuesday call. For me, I'm always super big on giving props. So when I first saw this format, it was from Summer Hudson, who was with EXP out of Indiana. I hit her up. She got on a call with me. He's like, hey, this is what I do. This is how I do it. And of course, you take your own little spin. You're not like copying exactly. That's kind of like all what we try to not to do, at least. And she gave me the playbook, and she's like, hey, I've got on calls with people before. We were friends kind of before that through TikTok, just through the content I was posting. And she was like, the biggest thing I would say is, like, I get on these calls and people aren't going to stay consistent. So that was like my challenge. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So all I got to do is like keep doing it. So I was lucky when the first video I did, it really took off. And then I was just like, for the last 10 months, day off or two here and there, but almost every day posting on TikTok.
That was going to be my question. So
yeah,
so obviously, like, you're not going out every day and shooting. So what does that look like for you as far as getting content created?
Yeah. So it's usually for me about 6 to 7 tours once a week. So hitting up those agents, getting permission, mapping them out, and then going and hitting those houses. And then in between there as well, Matt and I have been kind of doing where we'll pick 1 or 2 of those houses and we'll do an Instagram tour on it as well, where we have our gimbal and we're kind of doing a speed ramp walkthrough. And then from there, we can have multiple uses of content between Instagram and TikTok.
I love that.
Yeah. Matt, you got anything like that?
Yeah, I just didn't know if you wanted to keep going.
That's like, I have plenty to say.
I got plenty to say, but I'm letting Roland
going.
I'm letting Roland just roll here. And I think that's why I like speaking the two of us together at things, Roland, is because a lot of times you hear people come on stage or come on a podcast and they say, I did this thing and I got really successful off of it. And a lot of times you think, this person either got lucky or, it's just one of, a few people that can actually make this sort of content work. But what's great is the fact that Roland and I roughly started around the same time, and we had 2 completely different paths to getting to where we are. To me, that is proof, right? Proof positive of, as long as you keep continuing with this, you can be successful with it, because we got from point A to point B completely different paths here. And that's why I like preaching that, which is it's going to look different for everybody, but if you just keep doing it, you will get to that point that you want to get to.
I love that.
So you're also
go ahead. No, Katie, you're
one at a time, please. One at a time.
Matt, I got a question. No, so you kind of laughed when Roland was like, yeah, and I did the first video on it, like, did really well, What do you think was the key to his videos taking off so quickly? Like, because obviously, because like you guys are doing them together, you're shooting content together, you guys are together a lot. Like, I just would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think Roland is just blessed by the content gods for things, and that's not taking away anything for him. He deserves it. He's extremely good at it if you've ever watched his content. But for some reason, his content always just bumps a lot quicker than mine does, and it's absolutely infuriating. But I am very happy and proud of him at the same time. But it keeps me going. And that was something that happened to me, is Roland's first video on TikTok just went nuts. It went viral. I mean, truly it did. His first one, it went crazy. I toiled in ambiguity for months before I finally got any sort of attraction. And I stopped and started a couple times because it was just so frustrating. And I would just message Roland sometimes just send him a screenshot of the 400 plays on TikTok and just be like, I'm worthless. I'm useless. I'm terrible. No one loves me. I'm just going to quit the business. I got to stop this. This is pointless. And to his credit, he was like, bro, just keep going. Once you get one that goes, just keep hitting it. And a couple weeks after that, I just kept trying. And finally I got one that really stuck, and it just took one. And it got up to almost 800,000 views at that point long ago. And ever since then, it has been a constant growth since that one video.
Well, and I think what you're saying right now is the more relatable story, right? Because like most people, that's how content works, right? It's like, whether it's what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're shooting it, you know, your language patterns, whatever it may be, there's at some point it just clicks, right? And you're improving over time and it clicks, right? So I think that's the story, you know, screw Roland. That's the story that everyone wants to relate to. Tim,
the thing is too, is I failed so much before that at different styles, this, like, you know, my talking head content when everybody else's was like, you know, taken off. Mine was just like, you know, it was decent. It was okay. It is what it is. So I think that's where people have to, I mean, that's like just the blessing of being in this community, and like people listen to us on the last Tuesday call. You try more and more stuff, it could work for you. There could be people that go and do this type of style and it never works for them. You just got to keep trying those new things until something does pop.
Yeah. And there's that cliche, just to clear it up, there's that cliche of there's no, you know, overnight superstars, overnight successes. And I do not mean to take that away from Roland saying, oh, it was his first video and it did well. He's been doing high end content for years. So it's not surprising. I feel like you're just kind of like, you're already at the top of the mountain when you try something new. So you have such a good base from everybody else, just from all the reps you've done of everything. So yeah, it's very well deserved, and it's not a surprise that his did well, but it's just very frustrating that mine.
All right, that's enough, Matt. It's enough compliments. We get it.
I'm just trying. Hey, I'm trying to lift my boy up, you know.
Look, I think I just want to give the audience some context. You guys are doing vertical listing videos. You are walking through houses. There are no edits. It is you walking through a house. Matt, you told me use a gimbal. Roland, just handheld. And you're just voicing over you walking through houses, which is super simple, super easy. And so where do you think the magic is in this content you're doing? Like that it's so simple and that it should be so easily executable. Like, why is it working?
The magic's in the house, I would say. So, I mean, because I remember like even when Matt started his, and like he was saying that, like, you know, he's messaging me like, hey, these aren't taking off or whatever. He was doing a lot of just like really normal houses. So with me, I started, and I think that's why it happened, is I started so strong with such a unique house. So in any market, that's the ticket. Whether it's, if you're primarily new construction market, okay, then it's nothing but the model homes within that market, right? So it has, that to me is the undeniable offer, is the house itself.
Matt, what do you think?
No, I completely agree with that, because the town that I live in is very much a little cookie cutter suburb town. And all the houses, honestly, they were built in the 80s and 90s. And as we know of real estate agents, what that aesthetic looks like, and people hate that aesthetic. And so but that's just what I had in town. So I was just going around and people were like, boo, this is boring. This sucks. got all of it. It's like, oh, well, that's not good content. And so then I started going like, all right, well, what's working for other people, and dissecting a little bit more and seeing what Roland said. The magic is the house. When you find those unique, interesting houses, even though they're not really in my market as much and I have to travel a little bit for it, it's really not that far outside of my net that I do for my clients. And it's just finding those interesting houses that'll grab their attention. The house is the hook, right? That's really what it comes down to, is that first shot of the house. If it looks interesting and intriguing, people will stick around. If it's not, people are going to bounce right off.
And then what's the next layer? So I love that you say it's about the houses, because I agree. But like, what is that next layer and how you guys are executing it? Because like I said, it's super simple. You're not paying a videographer thousands of dollars to get this organic reach. And so what is that next thing about the format you're doing that's resonating?
I think it's personality, personally. I think it's building the trust with the audience that you garner through just getting your net out as far as you can, and the people that come to you and are attracted to who you are. And that's another thing why I like speaking with Roland on this, because the two of us have extremely different personalities on our TikToks. Roland is very... he has more an investor mindset, so he can speak on a little bit more of the investing side of things, as far as like flips or as far as updates or what you might be able to rent something out for. He's a lot more methodical. So his audience really resonates with that, where mine is I'm a cartoon. I'm doing silly voices and I'm singing Disney songs when I'm on a little patio that overlooks the garden. Like I'm singing a princess song because that's just kind of what fits the mood. And that's what resonates with my audience. And it both work. And that, I think, is a secret sauce, is just them learning who we are. And more than that, it's learning to trust us. And that, I think, kind of hidden underneath all of everything is the crux of it, which is where we still talk about real estate and we still talk about the homes and talk about finishes and talk about neighborhoods. And because we're doing it in just such a sincere way, I think people actually listen to us because it doesn't come off as salesy, which is a big problem for a lot of people. Is they see real estate agents as, used car salesmen or those like skeevy lawyers. We're kind of grouped in with that. So when you're just coming off talking and being yourself about a home, I think it's really disengaging for people watching, and it gets that sales resistance down a lot and just lets you connect with people.
Well, I think that's the fact that it is, you are shooting it on your phone versus a super high production quality edited video with flashy transitions and things like that. Like, it's truly like you're walking me through this property, right? And so we're seeing more and more, Tim, like we're seeing more and more agents that are winning shooting on their phones versus shooting with, the high production quality. So I think that there's like a place for both, and it's just another layer of content that like you can so easily do, either, as Roland said, going out and shooting 5 or 6 or 7 in a day, or doing it while you're out at the property with a videographer getting content day.
Well,
so there's
and
a lot
I
of
think I feel like we've gone over this point a couple times, but if I get the luxury listing and I'm like, I need to shoot a listing video for this, and I get the videographer out with the drone and zooming into the living room and the cool shot of the kitchen and like making this beautiful cinema looking video, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do to sell the house.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is, like, you guys aren't selling the house. You're giving people the tour through the house. I think it's why the Tyler Hassman style of, he would zoom through and it's a little bit more edited, but it's still the same idea. Like you allow the person to feel like what it's like to walk through that home, and you're there walking through it with them, as opposed to selling them the house. And you guys are really good at just going into the details.
And it's very similar to YouTube.
Cinematography?
I didn't know which word I was going to use, but I realized halfway through saying it, I didn't know what word I was going to use. And so you picked up on that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, all of us were like,
we're just letting you cook, bro. We're just letting you cook.
I was going to say, though, it's very similar to YouTube in the sense where, how people on their channels, they really build that trust because of the time that people are invested into it. And that's how it is with the tours. That's like, not only does it keep them engaged because it's not somebody just talking to, their camera, but they get to see this beautiful house. They get to like build that trust with us and everything that we're saying every single day over and over and over, because, these people who usually are on TikTok that find us are usually on TikTok every single day, like many of us.
Well, and these videos are what? Anywhere from 3, 4 up to like 9 minutes long. Is that about right?
Yeah. Depending on the size of the house. Yeah.
You guys are I downplay somewhat the quality of the video because I'm talking about how it's just on your phone, it's not edited and all that other fun stuff. But your voiceovers, where the magic happens, right? How you talk about the property, how you keep that going, is really where I think you really suck that audience in, and they watch your videos for 8 minutes. Talk to me about what that process looks like. Like, how are you preparing so you execute that voiceover really well?
I'll let you go, Matt, and then I'll add mine.
Yeah.
And are you shooting it directly when you're walking through the property, or is this a voiceover like, we're sitting here right now with headphones and mics?
Yeah, no, great. Both great questions. So I'm pretty sure Roland does it the same way, and you can kind of chime in and add your own little flavor to it afterwards too, Roland, is we just go through the house, no audio at all. It's just all video. And usually what we do is we take like a quick little walkthrough first to kind of see little points of interest, or especially with older homes. Like there's a lot of homes here that were built in the early 1900s. And a lot of them have these little secret built-in compartments, or like an ironing board that's built into a wall that can fold out. So it's all these little treasures, right, that you really want to make sure you find first, because that's what's going to like captivate people and get them talking in the comments. So we do a quick little walk through the house. And then we just start at the front with our phone, either on a gimbal or handheld, and we just walk through it, just slowly pointing everything out. No audio at all. And after we're done with the 6, 7, 8 minute walkthrough, whatever it is, however many we do, we go home later, and then we do the voiceovers separately, either using TikTok or using CapCut, which is what I use. And we have a just like a $100 microphone from Amazon. I'm sure you could even get a cheaper one if you wanted, just that the audio quality is good. And we just voice over it almost like we're there in person doing it. And we voice over it as we watch ourselves walk through the house, pointing out all the things. And the other great thing about it is it lets us do a little bit of research about the house, because again, some of these houses have some really cool history to them that we wouldn't know just walking in. So it lets us look at the neighborhood. It lets us know if there was a architect of note that talked about it, who may have owned the property beforehand. So it gives us all these little tidbits. Again, just more hook, more information, more of us coming off like the local expert as we're talking about these intangible things about a house that we're showing people.
Yeah, that's spot on. I mean, so always pulling up the MLS, and then if there's anything in the remarks that's unique about the house, mentioning that from what the agent put, or even in the confidential remarks, which we have on our MLS. If there's something that we know it's like, past celebrity's house, or it's an Eichler, like a really nice mid-century modern home, every once in a while I'll hop into the disclosures and see if there's any additional information on the history, because we have a lot of historic homes. That's about the most of the extent that I'm going to do.
Everyone that's killing with these types of videos right now, I feel like, is shooting the voiceover after the fact, right? So like when we talk about Raj Sahu on YouTube, or Tyler Hassman on, on Instagram, y'all on TikTok, stuff, like everyone's coming home and saying, okay, what are the things that I need to touch on? What are the key points? How can I make this so that people are interested through it? Because like if I'm walking you through a house, I'm like, okay, and then so now we're in the living room, and it's just, it's not cohesive, right? It's like a 2015 Facebook Live, right? So like we've all done that.
Hell yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And then you're just like trying to fill as you're like walking up the stairs, like not heavy breathing. So I think that's the key for this, right? Is like going home, putting together your thoughts, having a few bullet points written down, and really making it so that it flows well and you're giving really good information. So I love that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Especially because a lot of these houses have like giant staircases that take us, 30 seconds to walk up. I don't want to cut that because that staircase is beautiful, but what the hell do I do when I'm walking up that staircase? And that's where I start maybe diving into the history, right? About like, hey, fun fact about this house. It was built by this architect who actually worked for this person, like all these little things as I'm going up the staircase. So it still keeps people engaged instead of getting bored walking up a staircase and just swiping to something else, which is so easy to do on TikTok.
Well,
and playing to the neighbor. My bad. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, playing to the neighborhood too, right? It's like we all know that we want to go into the most sellable part of the house. If we're in like a tiny house, 2-bed, 1-bath, 800 square feet, that's like 1.2. People are going to be in our comments and be like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is why I live in Texas, or this is why I live in, Connecticut, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So going into like, talking about the neighborhood. So you're that, neighborhood expert as well, and local expert and things like that really helps out.
And for my Connecticut listeners, just know that they are giving me a hard time. That was a jab at me, not at you, Connecticut listeners. Roland and Matt are just so inconsiderate.
Connecticut's beautiful. You get to watch the leaves change. It's about that
right.
time, right?
We actually
you get to drive down the highway and just
Not
like drive down the highway.
We're planning a little New Hampshire leaves trip. So anyways, we talked about audio.
Relevant.
Yeah, see, relevant. I know my East Coast stuff. I know my stuff.
Allegedly. We talked about the audio. I think you guys really crushed on the voiceovers. I think that's really important. But we should touch on visually how you're shooting this stuff, and visually what's important when you're recording these, because again, you are hooking an audience in for 4, 5, 9 minutes on TikTok, which is not a platform we think of that has long attention spans. So visually, when you're shooting these videos, what are you doing to keep people engaged?
I would say the hook in the beginning, like that's kind of what we really like to start with. So, some of my more recent ones, it's like, this house has been untouched since 1956. The caption will help a little bit too if people do read the caption. So I would say that is going to be like the biggest thing. Like I know Matt had one that was like 1 million plus, and he's like, this is the most insane backyard I've ever seen, right? And we'll get to that last. So that's when it's, even if people are going to put it on 2x speed, which is very common on TikTok, but they're going to like, listen to us on 2x just to get through that 9-minute video in 4.5 minutes. Everything helps. So I think that that line in the beginning is the biggest hook. For sure.
But the way you're shooting it, so like, what are you going towards on the video side of it? Because the hook is more audio, right? I
didn't answer his question at all, dude. Didn't answer his question.
Let me just answer on your question.
Yeah, for real.
What do you got?
I'll blame that on the Sudafed D or whatever the fuck you're taking.
Or remember the IQ comment.
It's the D, dude. So honestly, I don't plan anything out. Like I'm unlocking that door and turning on lights as I'm going through that. So I'm not like hopping in and turning on lights. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go here. I'll go there. I literally go as I would just any other tour. So if the living room's there right off the bat, I'll go to the living room and then go to the kitchen. And if there's bedrooms, there's really no, at least for me, method to it when it comes to TikTok. Instagram is different.
Matt, what's your take?
Yeah. And also maybe this might be a little more actionable. So when we film our videos, I know that I turn mine into 60 FPS. I have an iPhone. I know that most other phones can do that as well, but I basically bump up the video quality because
that would technically be the frames per second.
FPS, yeah, FPS.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's what I said. 60 FPS.
Yeah, just making sure.
Matt just found out what FPS means.
Yeah.
Are you okay? I got to tell you, Roland, when you come after me about normal stuff that you know that I know, it grinds my gears and sets me off. But I know that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to instigate. I'm not going to let you do it because I'm bigger minded than that. Anyways, as I was saying, yes. Moving on. We bump our video quality up. So that, again, we need the video to look good and we need the audio to sound good because it's just that little bit extra that goes into it. I've seen people try to do it that don't bump it up and it looks really grainy. And a lot of times their turns, it just, I don't know. It just looks kind of off.
Slowing it down ever?
Slowing it down as far as like editing it, like slowing it down? Like
if you're shooting 60 to be able to slow it down if you need to.
No, actually, we're not.
Okay.
No.
Just taking up lots of space on the phone for no reason.
Yeah.
Are you pulling it out to
better?
0.5?
It looks better, and we're pulling it out to 0.5. Was the next thing I was going to say. Yes, thank you, Katie, for pulling it out.
Did you know that like most major pictures are 24 frames per second?
Yeah, Tim. Look.
Okay.
How many views do you get on TikTok?
He knew that.
How many views do you get on TikTok, huh, bud? Yeah, you're gonna come at those two experts there.
For the first,
I'll go in the archive and pull out my 3.2 million view video. My one.
First point would be posting on TikTok. Okay,
Yep.
so just to recap, as far as actually shooting on the property, as both of them previously already said, Tim, they'll do a walkthrough and get the lights turned on and things like that in the property and kind of get the idea of how they're going to walk around or what the showstopper is or whatever, right? They pull the phone out to 0.5, put it on a higher frames per second if you do choose to. You can also play around with like 1080 or 4K. Like you can change it.
I'm on the 4K train for sure.
Hell yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So whatever to do to make it higher quality, but 0.5 zoomed out, and then you go back to the front of the house and just do the slow walkthrough.
Yep.
Steady
Simple.
Walkthrough throughout.
Steady
the property.
walkthrough. Easy.
And so then you just take that and then you voice over it and put it on TikTok. You don't edit it. You speed ramp up for Instagram.
Yeah.
Slow up and speed down for Instagram, but you don't do anything for TikTok. You just.
So yeah. And TikTok, there is no mapping out which way I'm going. I'm looking at that house just as someone would first look at that house if they were inside there with me. So, the only time that I'm mapping something out is for Instagram because it's going to be that speed ramp walkthrough and you want to make sure you hit the highlights because you only have, a minute and a half. We usually try to keep them to 60 seconds. But for TikTok, I think that's why it's like that's more TikTok style is just being more candid. I think.
Yeah.
I love that.
What's wild to me just about TikTok, and shut up, Tim, is that when I'm watching a TikTok, like, as you said, it's very normal for people to hold down on one of the corners or one of the sides to speed it up to 2x for whatever the length of the video is. But sometimes I realize that I've been holding down on like a 9 or 10 minute video. And I'm like, oh shit, I've been on this video for a very long time. I don't even realize it. Right. And so that's where I think that like, this is such an untapped thing, right? Like everyone's so focused on the shorter the video, doing 7-second videos and stuff like that to rack up views. But I'm like, it's wild how you either have zero attention span on TikTok or they're tuning into this long ass video. So I love it.
I think it all comes down to luck too. Like at the end of the day, like a lot of people say like, it's never luck, but I think just like a lot of other things, there's some component of luck to it. And I think right when we started doing these is when TikTok wanted to push long form more. It's when like the creator program kind of started being more relevant, which is like each video for you to make money, you have to be over a minute long. So I just think that there's like a little bit of a perfect storm that happened with it as well. And I think that people were so used to such quick, like, 8 seconds, it's got to be 6 seconds, like whatever it is. And then like maybe as a society, they kind of got like, hey, it's kind of nice to just see something that's a little more slowed down. Like I don't have to just like keep swiping through.
I mean, you think that like that's also something that's kind of trending on Instagram now. It's like everything kind of flip flops and moves around as far as like what's the thing, right? Like we were talking the other day about like IGTV, and you used to be able to put up a long ass video on Instagram and you would get like 30 minutes of watch time because people would like sit and watch your stupid TV show.
Yeah.
So, I think that it's just and I would also challenge you on the luck comment, because like there's clearly some method behind the madness of like, you're making sure that the first thing that you're saying is a verbal hook, right? You're saying you're doing these things, and while you might not be planning out exactly how you're walking like you would walk through with a buyer, right? And explaining to them the property like you would if you were touring with them. So there's definitely I feel as if you're being a little too flippant on like, oh yeah, no, so we just do them and it's easy, right? Like there is some method behind it.
They're both very flippant, it's our flippant crew here.
Flippants.
And hey, then the side note, which is one of my most favorite ones, is the whole TikTok creator thing. Like you guys are actually making money on TikTok as well, beyond just the leads and everything you're getting for your business.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I mean, it's a nice little side hustle because, as you know, realtors love their streams of income, as we always talk about in the business. And this is one that is just sort of like automatically included with what we do, because obviously we do it for lead generation. We do it for content creation. So just getting paid on top of it is a nice little bonus. And I know Roland just had his best month last month for your payout.
What'd you get?
Share that.
What was it?
4,500.
Woo! In a month for making content.
Oh man,
nice.
I love it.
But
yeah, it's usually about 25 to 3,000.
Yeah,
I had a like 2 or 3 that did really well this month, so
that's
not as normal. But it's like Matt said, it's just super nice that we're just doing it, and it's just an extra additive, and it pays for our other overhead.
Well, that's normally that would like pay for like a couple videos with the videographer, but like you guys are shooting these on your phone, which is like, cool.
So it pays for my dinners and my cocktails, and that's what it pays for me. So it's
Disneyland trips.
Disneyland trips. Yeah.
That's probably why I love it so much, is because you're making content long form on TikTok, which automatically is just a thing for people. What do you mean long form on TikTok? Just your cell phone, no edits, just walking through, voiceover. So a cheaper route to go, a more basic route to go as far as production goes. And then not only are you doing it for cheaper, you're actually making money. So I got a bunch of people that are spending money on a videographer, spending money on ads and doing all that stuff. You're getting business from this stuff. You're getting people to reach out to you to buy houses, and you're getting an extra couple $1,000 a month on the creator side.
Yeah. So I want to go down that route a little bit, because we talk about content all the time when we talk about, all of these people doing all of these really cool things. TikTok it's hard to DM on TikTok. So how are you guys converting these leads? Like you say you have people reaching out. Are they DMing you on TikTok? Are they hitting you up on Instagram? Do you have a link in bio? Like what does that look like to take them from like consuming content and getting hundreds of thousands of views to actually selling houses?
Yeah, for me, I know Roland and I differ slightly on this. For me, I have a link tree basically right in my profile. Especially with TikTok, you have so few characters. It's not like Instagram where you can have this whole written out bio. You have to be really concise. And so I know that Roland and I basically have the same thing where we say, Bay Area Realtor, we love cool ass houses. Click below to work with me. That's what it basically is, because we just want people to start clicking on that link. And for me, it just leads them to a whole link tree. But the first one I have is a Calendly link where it's like, hey, have a 15 to 20 minute conversation with me over Zoom. Let's schedule up, have a talk. And I'll just have people go in there and it'll just pop up on my phone. All of a sudden, I'll just be doing my thing during the day. And it's like, hey, in 3 days, you have a 20-minute phone call with this person, or you have a 20-minute phone call with this person who wants to sell their home in Las Gatos and buy in the Berkeley Hills. Like, so that's how they get to me. And a lot of DMs happen. I know that it is DMs on TikTok are horrible, but people still use it. And I've had people reach out to me and say, hey, what's the address of that house? Or can we go see this house that you just showed this weekend? I love what this is. Where is the neighborhood good? Just asking the questions and getting that conversation going. And I don't care how it gets started. They could DM me, they could schedule a Calendly link. To me, it makes no difference. As long as we start getting that engagement together, that's when I really can start building on that trust with like a specific person who's actually looking in this area.
Do
And then
you
for
have
me-
do you
Go
have
ahead.
more people hit like the Calendly link, or do you have like a lot of DMs, or do you know like the kind of the breakdown?
I do. Yeah. I'd say it's pretty 50-50. My Calendly just pretty recently has been like sort of popping off, which has been really
Love that.
nice.
Yeah.
The more I've done, like I got a call the other day. This woman who lives in Florida, she's like, hey, I am a physician for Google campuses. That is what I do. I make like $400,000 a year. I'm a single person. This is what I want to do. I'm going to be moving from Florida to the Bay Area. I want to buy in the Berkeley or Oakland Hills. Can you help me buy like a $1.5 million house in October? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I can do that.
I guess
And she
so,
found
yeah.
me. Yeah, she found me because on TikTok, it wasn't even her. Her friend sent her my
that happens a
video.
lot.
She's like, hey, my friend sent me this video. Seems like you know what you're talking about. You know the area. Can we get a phone call? And can you help me buy a $1.5 million house? Yeah, hell yeah. Let's do it. Let's get that set. So it's just things like that that are just like, you just never know where it's going to come from. You never know how it's going to come in, whether it's someone seeing it themselves or someone being sent something because they know, like, and trust you and they want to pass it off to a partner or friend, whomever. So it's sort of this like amalgamation of a little bit of everything, but it's pretty 50-50 for me, at least, as far as DMs and Calendly links go.
Nice.
Amalgamation, that was a big word.
Yeah,
So for
Yeah.
me, it's I have what's called Woofu, where it's just basically a jot form. So when my direct me link gets hit, I always put my listings up at the top, like my active listings, because I always want that drives like a lot of traffic to my property websites. And then right below that is, I want to buy a home or I want to sell a home. So I'd say about 60% of my inquiries come directly through those forms. And it's like a 6 to 7 questions that are really, really simple. Those go directly into my Lofty CRM, and then they get put on a smart plan, which is going to be an automatic text and email. And then that email sends them a link to book a call with me. And then they book directly from that email.
Woo foo.
Yeah. we heard you the first time, Katie.
Just want to make sure.
I just want to make sure no one really laughed.
That's the I wasn't looking for the laughs. I was
looking for the
I
second
laughed
laugh.
at myself. I was
All
just that's my only takeaway from what Roland said. Woo, foo.
Look, I love I'm infatuated with this long form TikTok thing, but you guys have also done a ton of other stuff, and I think you've done a ton of other stuff well. I love kind of the angle you guys have gone after with the podcast. I love a lot of the local business highlights that you've done. And so you've just done a lot. I think your TikTok listing videos are what's cracking right now. But what is your second favorite kind of category of content you've done? And let's talk about that.
Well, for me, honestly, it's the we talked about Tyler Hassman before. I'll let Roland kind of talk about a different one if he likes. But for me, it's been that Tyler Hassman speed ramp video for Instagram. I just posted one.
Video.
Yeah, no, not a
Yeah.
listing video. It's like a walkthrough video.
Yeah, a walkthrough video.
Yeah,
Roland,
I just
what's your
listing.
favorite thing?
I just posted. Yeah, I
That
just
one.
posted one last week, and I'm almost up to like 500,000 views on it. So like those still hit.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do
500K.
really well. Yeah,
that's really sexy. I
not
like
bad
it.
for
Yeah.
Instagram. Yeah,
Some light work right there.
might work.
Natural.
Yeah, the speed ramp walkthroughs do really well, but I would say what's even better is the small business highlights.
Hold on, just to quantify. You are doing quantify is not the right word either. I don't want to be circuitous.
You're
I just wanna
you're trying to
be
throw
direct.
some big words in there like Matt. I get it.
So-
Sharon Travata taught Tim
word
circuitous probably
He's
Probably
been
like
waiting to throw it in there. I could
year
tell.
ago?
Like, well, that was a ham-fisted
No,
word
he-
in there, but all right.
he,
First time he's pulled it
he
out of his
drops
pocket.
it in the conversation
I know I drop it all the
quite
time.
frequently.
My big
quite
word.
frequently.
Love that. That's how
All
you
right,
learn.
Matt, I'll hear that from Matt about 3 times a week now.
Thank you.
So, just to nail this down, you guys are doing a long form walkthrough videos on TikTok. You're doing shorter, what we call more Tyler Hassman style, where it's like speed ramps through walkthrough videos on Instagram. Any other platforms I'm missing here?
I've been on a long hiatus from YouTube just because it wasn't
Yeah.
driving the same results in my market as the other two were. So that's pretty much it.
And we can touch on that, but just so we're clarifying, 5 to 9 minute long walkthrough tours on TikTok, 1 minute walkthrough tours on Instagram. I think the reason on the YouTube stuff is that you guys are doing shorts.
No, it's
not
because
even so much on that.
because we don't have a lot of people moving to our market.
It's not a
Right,
real
it's a-
market. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas a lot of people who do crush, from what I've seen and studied, that's usually the case. You know, you're Texas, Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not
No.
relo, and there's not a lot of new builds. Those are the two things that we
Yeah.
see mostly that crush on YouTube is all the new developments and all these new things. That doesn't happen in the Bay Area. Whatever it is already here. It's just a bunch of resells at this point, which isn't bad, but it doesn't lend to that sort of content on YouTube, I don't think, at least. And I think Roland kind of agrees too.
Well,
Yeah.
let's dive into this local content stuff you were doing. So I want to talk about the what that content looks like when you're highlighting. It sounds like, the local business stuff, but also, what platforms this is working on.
So all my, except for the speed ramp walkthroughs that go strictly to Instagram, which I could probably put on YouTube Shorts too, but all of my local business highlights and even my listing videos, I'll put to TikTok as well. And they don't do as crazy numbers, but for the people that have been following me for a while, they get a kick out of them. And anytime you see something that's local to your area, you usually get a kick out of.
And so talk to me about the local business videos you're doing. What do those look like and why you think they're working?
Because it's all about getting local followers, right? So what I'll usually do is have, before it was me, but now it's having my assistant reach out to these businesses and, give an example of what we do. It's free. All we ask is that we make sure it's going to be a collab post on the two of them. So that way we cross post, we get each other's followers. And they usually just do really, really well. Like, I don't think I have one that's done like under 10,000 views. And it's like the name of the game. It's like local followers is the best type of followers that we want, because when we post those listing videos and we post those walkthroughs, they're going to engage and, you're going to be that top of mind for us, posting usually 3 to 4 times a week. It's a great, touch point within itself.
And what does that content look like? Like, what's an example of a business you would go to profile? And then what would that video look like?
Restaurants always do super well because restaurants are super shareable. And they usually have a lot of followers, a lot of local followers. So it's very similar to the speed ramp walkthroughs of Instagram. We might cut it up a little bit for some engaging stuff, but a lot of the times too, we'll do a speed ramp walkthrough of a restaurant with like us ending, eating a bite of food or something.
Do you guys have a lot of local food bloggers out there?
We have a good amount, probably more than we even know of. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I mean, Bay Area is very diverse, so there's a lot of different types of food out here.
Because that's what I think. Like here in Houston, we have a ton of like the food bloggers that it's like they just do all they do is the local restaurant highlights, and all of the videos. When you look at like the likes, comments, and shares, it's like the share number now that we can see them. They're super high because it's like I'm sending this to you because I'm like, hey, do you want to go to happy hour here? Or hey, let's go grab dinner. So I love it.
Yeah. Well, and the thing I've seen win on that content is, like you kind of mentioned, it's simple. Show people the restaurant, show people the food. The thing that I think doesn't really work, which again, I would love to hear from you for, but some people try to make the TV show where they like interview the owner and do all that stuff. And like, it just loses people's interest really fast, where you guys,
even the owners hate that. They're like, they don't want to be on camera. They're not comfortable. They don't want to take time out of their super busy day when they're stretched so thin. Like, we're like, hey, it's 15, 20 minutes. We'll be in and out of your hair. They'll usually give us some, free food along with it. It's awesome. And then they get a ton of business from it because they never do social media. Like, they're so, like I said, they're so stretched thin. They don't have the money to set aside for media cost or whatever it is. So they're super thankful. I've gotten referrals from, people who either work in that business or, business owners. So it's just an awesome win-win for everybody.
Yeah, I think you touched on it, Tim. I mean, I don't mean this to come off the wrong way, but nobody cares about when the restaurant opened up, and you know what I mean? Like the interview with the owners, people don't care about that. People want to see the food. They want to see the pictures. They want to eat with their eyes. They want to send to their friends to go to brunch or mimosas or whatever it is. Like that to me, it's so much more of a capture, and that helps out the owners more. And I'm not disparaging the owners from coming out there and talking about it. Obviously they can do that, but that's not what the audience wants. They want to see the food. They want to know what they can order, what the new hot spot is. Like that's the shareable content that Roland focuses really well on when he does those business highlights.
What's your guys' experience been with the podcast? Tell me how that journey's going and kind of what you learned.
Yeah, so the podcast, we have Bay Area Boys podcast where we basically talk about all things Bay Area
with the boys.
Yes, there you go. All right, good job, Roland. Nailed it, buddy.
I needed that finger, dude, because I
got you. I know, I got you. That's a nice little cue there. Basically, it's just another way for us to niche down locally. It's another way to try and create local content that gets shared, that gets interacted with. It just sort of falls under the umbrella that we are trying to create, which is just be top of mind for everything, whether it's house walkthroughs, whether it's business highlights, whether it's local news here in the Bay Area. We kind of want to just be this ever-present voice to people who are interested in the Bay Area and kind of hit them from all sides. And some posts do better than others, obviously, but man, when we hit a post that is relevant and topical and a lot of times polarizing, it goes nuts. The comments we get, the follows we get, the shares that it gets, I mean, it really pops off and just builds our brand even bigger, gets our faces out there, because that's one of the few front-facing types of content that we do, because all our walkthroughs are forward-facing. We don't see our face. All the business highlights, normally, unless there's like a shot or two of us in there. But the podcast is really where we can just, our face in front of the camera, talking about our opinions on things and our expertise on things. And I think that's just another extra step to show possible clients in here that we are knowledge brokers, information brokers, and we know what we're talking about.
I also like that you're going live on Instagram, you're cutting it up and having short form content come out of that as well. So it's not like it's just one thing that you're doing, right? You're hitting multi-channel and different things on each channel. So
yeah, and it helps with
y'all.
Thank you. Yeah, it helps with interactions too, because you do the same thing too, Katie. I've popped into a couple of your lives as well. It just helps with interaction. People can ask questions, especially if it's a follow-up question about something you're talking about, which is fantastic, because that's the whole point of it, is to get the conversation going. And then we can just edit it out of our short form. We can edit it out of our long form if we want to, but we usually keep it in because, again, it's nice to hear the interaction, hear that actual people are responding to us. It's just, it just kind of gives a little bit more authority to us when you hear that other people are interacting and we're not just speaking into the void and nobody's listening. So all those little things, to me, I think add up to something that's really important and really special and a really big part of our branding. Even if it's not like, oh, when we post a video, we're not getting 3 DMs to buy a house. That's not really, to me, what it's for. It's more about just getting our face, our brand, just, again, spreading that net wider, trying to just get as much of the local area as we can for many different reasons.
All the reasons.
It's really great stuff. I don't know if the Bay Area goes out of their way to thank you often, but they should thank you, because you guys keeping your face out of most of your content is really
it helps
on many levels.
I love how it starts out where I think he's going to give you all a compliment.
Yes,
and then
it's the build, break, build. That's what that's what that.
Yeah. The shit sandwich. The shit sandwich.
So podcasts, I love that. I love the business stuff, the tours. You guys are doing a ton, and the more I give you a hard time, it's just the more I love you. So I must love you guys a ton, because all I do is give you a hard time. Anything else that you're working on or that you're trying to improve on in your content and in your business that you guys are doing right now?
Yeah, there's one thing I want to touch on just kind of overall from all of the content that we do. And I try to speak on this as much as I can, because I feel like it's a forgotten aspect of why we do this in the first place. And that is, everything that we do makes us more of an expert for what we do. Because whether it's talking about local content, that is such an important thing, to where if someone's talking about a new law or a new policy or a new anything in town, you have the expertise to speak on that. And it makes you seem that much more of an authority figure to a client. Talk about all the houses that we do all of our walkthroughs on. There are so many things that I have learned just in the last 6-7 months of doing these walkthrough tours, like the difference between a balustrade and a banister. I know the difference between those things now. And I know that sounds like a small, tiny thing.
Hey, real quick, what is the difference?
So the banister is the whole entire thing going up. The balustrades are the little spindles in between each one. Yeah. But the point is, no one's going to care about that until somebody does, until someone who has a $3 million home is like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. They know the details. They can sell my home because I'm a homeowner. My balustrade is the most beautiful balustrade that's ever existed, as we all know, that homeowners think. And they can see that and think, well, Matt's going to be able to talk about that because I've seen him talk about it. He knows his stuff. He knows all those little details that go into selling a more unique and interesting home. And so I think, what's that?
Go ahead, finish your thoughts.
I was just going to say, I think all of that combined just makes us better at what we do. It just makes us better real estate agents. It makes us better professionals. And that at the end of the day, okay, just ask your question, Katie.
You're just being very circuitous. That's all. But it's really good.
Yeah.
We really enjoy it.
What's interesting to me is the amount of times in this podcast that's the word rod has been used. It's probably the most of any pod we've had for the real estate video blueprint.
Rods and deeds. Rods and deeds. Answer your question as well, Tim. We have been talking about pivoting to more of a Bay Area type of page. Well, actually, we need to get your thoughts on maybe off the record. But the Bay Area Boys podcast, obviously, it's great, right? But pivoting to something that would do better on YouTube and things like that, to where obviously like a lot of other people that we know who are doing it in different markets, like Ken and Kyle Talbot, it's another one that comes to mind. But doing that for the Bay Area, I think would do really, really well, because I was listening to a podcast the other day where it was saying that like news stations across the US are at like an all-time low for viewership.
Yeah.
And are like, you know, majority of our clips will do like better than probably some local news stations are doing, because the trust isn't there for news stations, but the trust for social media is 100% there.
Well, what's funny is, Katie, we're going to do our
make an announcement right now.
Interviews, right? Because we just talked about YouTube on the last one, talking about YouTube here. What we were talking about was how many more people watch YouTube on their televisions, right? Sitting on the couch watching TV. And you guys kind of said YouTube doesn't work here, and I didn't want to give you a hard time while we're telling everybody how great you are, but I wanted to give you a hard time because sure, like Relocation Channel may not do as well there, but at the end of the day, we know there are a ton of people, more and more every day, sitting on their couch watching YouTube on TV. And Roland, you said it, less and less and less people are going to the news for their news. And so there's massive opportunity, I think. And one of the things that it's this balance, looking at what other agents have done in kind of R&Ding, or what do we call it? What's the tap, thank, appreciate, and make it your own or something?
Yeah.
That's TAM. I don't know.
TAM, close enough.
Personalize, adapt, and personalize. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And so there's
like you guys should know this.
I was trying to say it, but he just kept talking.
Okay,
I tend to do that. There's power in looking at what other people are doing, but sometimes you got to tune out what other people are doing and look at your area, your audience that you know really well because you've been making content for them, and say, what would they really watch on YouTube? What can we deliver our audience that they would really watch on YouTube? And I think you guys have plenty of stuff. So yeah, I agree. You could probably definitely get something going on YouTube.
Yeah. It's just a build like YouTube is, you know, it's a slow build, but I don't know if you've looked at our numbers, Roland, we're starting to like get a little bit of traction, not like huge or anything, but a couple hundred views on our last couple. We had like almost 4,000 views on one a couple weeks ago. So it's just, we're getting there, but it's a slog, just like YouTube is. So, you know, that's the reason I keep posting on there.
There's so many different things that people are doing well. And so it's like you hear this, right? And someone's listening to this now and they're like, shit, I'm going to start doing long form property tours. And they're like, oh, wait, but those restaurant videos are doing well too. I'm going to do, you know, and so that's something that, you know, I actually make content. Tim, I think, is still in the trying to figure out what he wants to make, but you know, trying to add on different layers.
I feel like he's been there for the entire time I've been with Real, which is almost like 3 years at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I've known him since like before that, so yeah. But it's one of those things though that it's like there are just so many things to do, and it goes back to Roland, one of your original points that you made when you had the conversation with Summer, where she's like, I've had so many of these calls and no one actually does this and continues to execute it. And if you do, it's going to work, right? But you just have to continue doing it. And so I think that's the kind of moral of the story is like, yeah, you guys could probably create a Bay Area pod / YouTube page that would crush. But like, is this something that you could layer on and put out enough content that people would follow and you know?
Well, that's what I like about what they're doing. You know, if you do this, if you say let's just use this long form TikTok walkthrough tour style, it's a great style. I think more people could be very successful with it, just with TikTok's algorithm and all the other things. but you have to dedicate yourself to doing it, stick to it, figure out how to get good at it. I love, Matt, the fact, that you're talking about how much research and everything. And a lot of, I can just hear the thoughts of a lot of the agents listening of how much they're going to overthink the voiceover now. And it's like, no. You do one, you get better at it. You learn a little bit more each time. And then 100 of these listing videos from now, you're an expert. And what you end up with is the problem that you want to have. Like, you've built something successful with the TikTok accounts that you could convert it over to a YouTube channel. Like, you've built enough successful stuff that you can convert it over to YouTube channel. Too many of us, too many times, like, try to do 5 different things before we've cracked the code on one of them. And that's what I love about what you're talking about with YouTube, is you guys have this opportunity YouTube channel because you're already building this local audience. And so you can add another Lego piece onto the thing you're already building, as opposed to trying to build 4 or 5 different things to start.
Yep.
Too many of us, too many of other people, Tim.
Are you gonna benefit the conversation, Katie? Or what are we doing?
Well, that's all I got.
Can I give a little anecdote about the voiceovers?
That's what I like to do, Matt. I like to pontificate and then leave a window open for you to comment before Katie rudely interrupts us. But yeah, no, Matt, I love to hear what your thoughts are.
Well, what I was going to say is, so when we first started our TikTok journey, when Roland's did so well, I am the person who is like, all right, I am going to copy something 100% that I see and then sort of like make it my own as I sort of figure it out. Because if something's successful, I just want to do it, right? And so my voiceovers and everything were so similar to Roland's because I'm like, well, it's working. So this is at least going to be my baseline, right? And Roland, very thinly veiled, would send me messages and be like, hey, dude, could you please like maybe find your own sort of things to do and say in the voiceovers? And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I'm trying to just at least get something down to where I can start like workshopping it. Right. So I knew that what I was doing wasn't really me, but it was a starting block. It was a starting point. And as I started doing more, I started figuring out what my voice was, right, for my audience. And now Roland and our TikToks couldn't be more different. But in the early days, I just tried to do something to get it started. And then I figured out what it was down the line as I got more into it. And so there's a little bit of tinkering and work to be done. But if you just start and go, just get in the lab, right? Figure it out. Start working through, see what people resonate with. Like for me now on my TikTok, shower niches are like my number one calling card thing, where I always call them out because I don't know why, it just kind of happened that way. And now whenever I show a house that doesn't have one, people in my comments are like, no shower niche, pass. We're done. We don't even want this house. It has a shower niche in it. So like they're in on the joke. What's that?
Rods and showers.
Yeah. And D's. And I mean, that's kind of the whole vibe of this episode, right? Okay. But the point is, get into it.
You should start listing tours from the shower. And then you get out of the shower and show the rest of the house.
That's an idea.
That's a listing video to me right there. It's like actually going through your day.
That'd be interesting. Listing videos just for TikTok too. That could do really well, Matt. That's a great idea.
Look at this. Look at all of us, huh? Look at this.
The melding of minds.
I love this.
Well, hey, I think Roland's medicine's wearing off, so I want to make sure
it definitely is.
Still a good pod, and he's looking more and more droopy. So Roland,
I'm looking pale as hell right now.
No, I know. We appreciate you hopping on during your sickness. Matt, thank you so much for sharing. You guys are the best. Follow them on social. We will link them up down in the show notes, as well as some of these videos that we've talked about. But thank you guys so much for all of your knowledge today, and we'll see you sometime soon.
Matt,
thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Matt, Roland, I just want to say how much I love you guys. I know I gave you a hard time on here, but I'm just super grateful to live as far away as possible from you. And not
come and see us when you're in town as well. It's such a good feeling.
All right.
I'm gonna when I hit Connecticut, I'm just gonna keep driving right down that highway,
right past it.
It wouldn't take very long.
Take a picture of my exit. All right, we're out. Later.